Thank you, and we can start the meeting now.
Hello to everyone. I would like to thank you all for participating at the Adnich closing conference today. My name is Nataša Kraljević, and I will be present here on behalf of the Royal Theatre Zetski Dom. At today's session, at today's closing conference, the participants are Mr. Angelo Villani, who will be participating today on behalf of the lead partner, but as well on behalf of the whole project. Mr. Fabio Toledi, President of the Italian Center of FITTI, Mrs. Roberta Quarta, Program Manager in the Italian Center of FITTI, Professor Alert Celo Aliai, Academy of Arts Tirana, and Professor Pieter Guralumi as a representative of the Kendra event. I would like to start this conference today with a short overview on our last joint project activity, Adriatic-Ionian Festival of Culture on Intangible Heritage, that has been organized in a period from 1st to 29th of March 2021. During the festival, the project partners had a possibility to share via YouTube channel the theater and film productions created within the Adnich project and to share it with the audience. The audience have possibility to see 13 programs, 9 theater and film productions created by Italian, Albanian, and Montenegrin partners, 3 from each country, presentation of the Montenegrin Center of FITTI, roundtable organized by the University Salento on social and cultural relations across the Adriatic Sea, opening conference on 1st of March, and today's closing conference. The online form of the Adriatic-Ionian Festival of Theatre, even though not selected as a first option for the promotion of the Adnich results, and especially not very much used as a model or even accepted in the theatre world, which is always more interested in live staging and performing, still gave us possibility to, in a way, reach more audience and to measure the reach we accomplished during this month. According to the last data, our festival have been seen by 14,878 viewers. Out of this number, the Montenegrin program have been followed by 647 viewers. So as someone who is representing the theater, in this case, the Royal Theatre Zetski Dom, we find this number very encouraging, taking into consideration that the Royal Theatre has only 100 available seats. Therefore, this number is much bigger than what would be able to reach in live performances. These numbers are important for us to understand that the audience is interested in the artistic programs we created, and with this online festival, we managed to make these programs available. In regards to the Royal Theatre program, we performed 2 theatre productions created within the Adnich project and co-founded by the Interreg CBC Italy, Albania, Montenegro programs such as Sailor's Rebellion and Conversations About Love. The third program was documentary Tihi Dom, directed for the purposes of the festival and filmed during the first wave of the pandemic, March-June 2020, and composed of the personal video messages sent by local, regional, and European artists to the Royal Theatre for the online program Zetski Dom with You. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to perform Who is Afraid of Virginia Woolf theater play that we have been developed and prepared and ready to stream for the Adriatic-Ionian Festival. Anyway, I wanted to share this short info about our impressions about the final activity that we created together, and to thank you for the efforts that you provided during the festival. Now I would like to ask Mr. Angelo Villani to take a stage and provide us with information on the project results on behalf of the Royal Theatre, but as well on behalf of the project in whole. Angelo, please.
Thank you very much, Nataša, and good afternoon, everyone. It is an honor for me presenting some of the results achieved by Adnich project in the last 3 years. For the aim of presenting these results, I have my presentation I would like to share with you. I hope you can see the screen. The aim of this presentation is giving an overview on project results by putting them in the perspective of the project insights and the project model. The final part of this presentation will try to double check the consistency between insights and outputs. I will start today recalling the title of the project, which is very long, and it is Adriatic Network of Artistic Productions for the Development and Enhancement of Intangible Cultural Heritage. Many people, including my wife, of course, criticized me for the length of this title. And to be honest, I would say I can see actually their point. Anyway, to understand what this project is all about, we should start, I think, from the keywords of the title, which are intangible heritage. These two words imply some difficulties, both in considering them separately or together. Let's start with the word heritage. Consulting the online version of the Oxford English Dictionary, we find that heritage means, I quote, the history, traditions, buildings, and objects that a country or a society has had for many years and that are considered to be an important part of its character, end of quote. There are a bunch of meanings one can infer from this description. The first meaning is the connection of the term with something material, like a church, a painting, a book, perhaps. The second meaning is the connection and the quality of being transferable to next generations, like a legacy or its synonymous inheritance. The third is the attitude of heritage, of standing still, of being stable over time to become a tradition. Now, if one considers the word heritage connected with the adjective intangible, the area of meanings and inferences increases and gets further complexity. For the Oxford Dictionary again, I quote, intangible is something that does not exist as a physical object, but it's still valuable to a group or a company, end of quote. In the artistic and cultural field, this word is associated to knowledge, ideas, theories, and all these things may be part of the heritage, even without being physical manifests. That is why the term recalls a concept of fluidity. Very often, the word refers to a connection with oral means of transmission, about techniques, about ideologies, about religions, and any other aspect of life. These oral traditions may encompass years, centuries, and sometimes millennia. The line between these two separate concepts, what is heritage, what is not, what is tangible, what is intangible, is quite blurred, leaving us in doubt very often. Let's make a couple of examples. If we refer to the concept of written tradition, we know from Luciano Canfora that, I quote, tradition is essentially either translation or copy. They are history, they are constitutive actions of the history of written civilization, end of quote. Translating and copying as fundaments of tradition. In his essay, Experience in Translation, published in 2003, the semiologist Umberto Eco pointed out how translation is basically a compromise, a negotiation, in other words, a bargain between two different languages and cultures. Every time a text is translated, it shifts, it moves. It is not still anymore, just the opposite of a stable acquisition. In the same way, talking about Greek classical statuary, we know it was spread across the Roman Empire through marble Roman copies. Copying and translating them are not referred only to written documents, but also to material manufacts. Another example about this factual confusion is when a tangible manufact comes from an intangible background. This is the case, for example, of Homeric poems. You can see the quotation from Albert Lord's essay in 1960. The Homeric poems were developed as a part of an oral tradition. So again, we have a confusion here between something that is material and something else is not material. Intangible heritage, for is something difficult to define and even more complicated to box in a steel frame. This critical approach is the very starting point of Adnich project, along with a second consideration related to the concept of experience. In 1936, Walter Benjamin published a paramount essay on Nikolai Lieskov, in which he wrote, I quote, "The art of storytelling is coming to an end," end of quote. What is the result of this end of storytelling? That something was taken, was stolen from us. I quote, "the ability to exchange experiences," end of quote. This idea may look today quite weird, as we are simply drowning in an overwhelming and apparently endless flow of messages, images, and data coming from billions of people, continuously posting, continuously sharing, liking, and commenting contents on every single aspect of their private lives, on every fact or event happening here and there. This is the same phenomenon observed by Benjamin about newspapers and mass media in 1936. The more news we have at hand, the less people seems to be capable of get experience exchanged. At this point, we should go much farther back and we should widen our perspective, since the topic concerns not just this project, not just theater or arts or sociology, but our world as a whole. I'm afraid today we have not enough time, and I have not enough intellectual personal resources to go that far today. Nonetheless, we can take this point that Adnich project regards itself as a tool to move in the exact opposite direction, offering a way to enhance and improve the exchange of experiences among players and people on specific topics. These ideas are the very basis of the project concept. Studying and exchanging results on cross-border culture topics to promote storytelling in artistic productions and to directly involve the public in developing those contents. But let's see for a while how this Adnich model works. Starting from these insights, the model was conceived by defining some themes on which a sociological research was performed. The research was then the basis for the co-creation of artistic contents. Those contents were performed locally first, then shared in a transnational festival. This process is clearly designed for being scaled up over time. The current project results can be seen as a basis for new themes, for new research, for new contents, and so forth. The starting Adnich environment was limited to the program countries, Italy, Albania, and Montenegro. But since the very beginning, the concept itself generated and blossomed into new links and into new artistic cooperation paths, including other 12 countries spread in 3 different continents. The clear international imprinting of this project is simply proved by the number of foreign artists involved, who created a wider artistic environment. Few things about the methodological approach. The model is based on the use of several means of expressions combined together, on a multi-layer perspective in approaching themes, on a pluralistic, polyvocal nature of its contents. Now, let's review a little bit the themes and all the phases, starting from the themes of this project. Project themes were chosen taking inspiration from the contemporary society. None of us have ever had the intention of digging into the mystic ground of the past in an elitist or archaeological mood. On the contrary, nowadays gender inequality and social conflicts were our targets. The research was locally based in Salento and in North Albania. It envisaged 3 specific topics. First, the role of women. Second, migrants' perspective and conditions in Salento. And third, the hard-to-die subculture of Kanun in North Albania. All of these topics were addressed through focus groups, video in-depth interviews, and surveys that involved dozens of people. Along with this research, the same topics were discussed, were analyzed, and were developed through workshops, seminars, and artistic residencies in the 3 countries. More than 60 sessions were implemented during the project lifetime, involving not less than 700 participants in co-writing activities, and more than 9,000 people as public in the 3 different showcases we performed. The results of these preparatory activities was a set in the plan of the project of 6 original productions. As we will see, the productions were 8, but in the plan there were 6 original productions to be made, 5 plays and 1 short movie. The initial idea was to perform all these productions in an Adriatic-Ionian festival to be held in the 3 program countries. Due to COVID-19 pandemic, though, plans had to be changed, and they were changed several times, I can say. Nonetheless, the festival was successfully carried out in March 2021 with the live streaming of 12 events, out of which 6 plays, 2 films or documentaries, and 4 public conferences, including the one of today. Project results matched and overcame the forecast, even if in a longer period of 36 months instead of 24. Especially the productions we had were in total 7 plays and 1 movie, and also the residencies were slightly higher than the project results as in the application form. The project impact was consistent with the plans, with some significant upgrading in the participation to the workshop and to the festival. I hope we will close this festival with 13,000 views on YouTube, which is a number we couldn't honestly expect even in our sweetest dreams in 2018. We closed this project with more than 10,000 people involved in live events. We closed this project with more than 100 events organized within. While I move now towards my conclusions, there is another fundamental aspect to be considered: the consistency between the model, or we can say the theory, and the results achieved during this project. We fixed before the pillars on which the model is based on. We fixed the model: themes, research, audience, productions. We said that our principles, our pillars are cross-border exchange on common topics. We said we look after the audience involvement in contents production. We said we are into the community storytelling enhancement. Now, I consider, but this is my personal opinion, but still consider community storytelling as the most important feature of this project. And what I want to do now is to see how some of these productions fit into the principles the project stated beforehand. I have to proceed through examples once again. We said before about pluralistic polyvocal approach. Sailor's Rebellion, for instance, was the first play produced within Adnich and recalls a rebellion of sailors in the World War I, 1918. The play is the result of 2 different books by Friedrich Wolf and by Radoslav Ratkovich. These books are the results of the research and of interviews of soldiers and sailors of different countries about the atrocities of war. At the very end, this play is a play from different books. Those books collect different voices of men who were enemies or who fought in the same side. In other terms, polyvocality. Multiple points of view to describe and exchange experiences about a common tragic story that is bigger than any single man, because belongs to every single man. Like a burden nobody can bear alone. Canticle of Canticles for mother tongue is based on a text written in Hebrew. which is part of the wisdom books of the Bible. The canticle is basically a love song. In early 17th century, many centuries after King Solomon wrote the canticle, several Jewish poets like Girolamo Melcarne, alias il Montesardo, translated the canticle and composed madrigals in Italian, again copying and translating. 400 years later, more or less, those madrigals were performed in the Adnich festival. And the poems were translated again from ancient Italian into Salentinian language. For us, this is an example of how a common Mediterranean root can still germinate into a contemporary, living, artistic result. Conversations about love is another place which is not based on any written text. It is the outcome of an artistic workshop involving 8 actors from 4 countries and 1 director. National legends, songs, poems, jokes are mixed to create a common frame in which actors can exchange experience on the topic love. Enhancing the storytelling means here, for this example, in this case, experimenting new ways of expression beyond the different languages and beyond the different cultures of participants. And finally, Blood and Cuff and 21,001 Days are 2 different productions based on contemporary Albanian society. Both face uncomfortable matters. The role of women and the old rules of the ancient canon, a kind of anachronistic blood revenge rules which marginally still exist in some remote areas of the country. This is what we call social aptitude. This is what we may call civil passion. This is for sure exchanging experience. The reason is very simple. Closing our eyes on what unpleasant is going on around us, avoiding any analysis on what is ugly or despicable, cruel, or simply stupid around us. This is the very same thing of keeping our lives out of any experience, stuck in the delusional dimension of the appearance. Rephrasing the expression of Roberto Calasso, we could say, living in the superstition of the appearance, where the word appearance is to be understood as the very object of the superstition. In the same way one talks on the superstition of black cats. Adnich, of course, is not the answer for every problem. Adnich, nonetheless, is a sign. And once in a while, at least, is a good sign. It is good because it shows that cooperation could work and could lead to sensitive, valuable results for communities. It is a good sign because it created opportunities for young actors and artists to exchange experiences with peers or new audiences. It is a good sign at the very end, and I would like to believe that it's still better to think, with Theodore Adorno, I quote, that one day out of the figures and symbols of appearance, there would nonetheless emerge, free of any trace of appearance, the salvation. Thank you for your attention, and I will leave the floor to Mr. Fabio Tolledi, ITI President, Italy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Also, I would like to say also something connected with the last intervention of Mr. Villani. Also, at first, we have to remember that the professor of University of Salento are living a condition connected with the vax, with the COVID, because at university they had the vaccination Friday and Saturday, and now the consequences are very hard and strong, and also they have fevers in this moment and they are not able to participate. We are sorry for this, because also it's important to remember also it's a challenge, this project too. It's not something that follow the line of the usual activities of a festival. Yes, it's a festival, but also is a creation of the platform, is a creation of a real network that will continue in the future. We hope also, again, in the framework of Interreg Montenegro, Albania, Italy, but also we are sure that this partnership will live again and more. And also this one is a result very important. We are sure that the connection with the University of Tirana, with the National Theatre of Cetinje, and University of Salento, and the network of ITI will continue to work in the future. And this is a real result, is not only an output, to speak with the word of the project, but also is a result very important. It's the first time in which we are able to work with the Montenegro. It's not the first time with the Albania, but also we have created a network to continue to work. And also we have started yet to work together, because we have in our future, we have planned to continue also to reach the result that for the COVID situation was impossible to obtain. For example, to exchange workshops and also to exchange skills between the different partners that has participated to this project. Adnich is an idea, is also an utopia in a certain way, to create a common framework to work together and to exchange something. And also this is very important to be clear on this, to maintain this idea. And also, I think that, for example, one of the results was the constitution of the Center of Montenegro of International Theatre Institute of UNESCO. 2 days ago was the World Theatre Day, and also we have celebrated all over the world. And what is the result? That we have a common framework in the European Regional Council of ITI, in which Montenegro is present now with the Italian Center of ITI and with the other center. I can say this because also I am the vice president of ITI Worldwide, and I vice president for Europe. And also for this, it's very important for me to enlarge the presence of the countries of the network of ITI in Europe. Is the region in which ITI is stronger. We have 31 centers, and the 31st center was Montenegro Center of ITI. And also, this is a result very that exceed by the meaning of the aim, the goal of the project, but also is another tool that we have created. And we are sure when we will continue to work together, we have another elements very important. Perhaps we have started to consider the opportunity to work for the creation of the center in Albania too. We have to discuss on this. Until now, the University of Tirana is the member of a network between ITI and UNESCO, a network of the school and the University of Theatre. And also is a concrete aspect. Also, sometimes we know very well that the project has some lines very important to follow, to maintain, and it's very important to consider this and to maintain very clear all the asset of the project. But also there is another aspect that arrive in another way, in another direction, and create a result very important and unexpected, I think, on this. And also, of course, it's very clear that the condition of the pandemic situation, it's very, very hard, especially for the performing arts. We know very well, and also we need to come back to the usual utilization of the theaters and also of the School of Theatre and the Academy and other aspects very essential for the tradition of the performing arts. But this period was very, very hard for everyone, but I think that we have tried to elaborate the maximum level of cooperation, of the exchange of experience, and to continue this connection and this relationship. Yeah, Angelo Villani has quoted Walter Benjamin, that is an author that I have fronted many times in my works, in my publication. There is a concept, a German concept, very, very strange, is Angedenken, is the very useful metaphor for our project. Benjamin said that the future is a creation, and also like the past is a creation. We created in the future the past. It's very interesting. Also, the image of the Angelus Novus is connected with this. It's something that watch the past, but because we are creating our past. This aspect is a very essential. If I have to consider by my study and my practices in theater in conflict zone in the International Theatre Institute, is not a smooth past that connect Italy, Albania, and Montenegro. For example, Italy was an enemy army during the Second World War for Albania. And also Montenegro was invited in the invasion of Italy for Montenegro is another aspect. The story always, the history is not something smooth. It's something that need always to be recreated. And for example, the performance connected with the memory of the sailor, of the soldiers, is something that is still alive. For example, I think that we can elaborate this for a future project. Because, for example, Montenegro is connected with the last war that we had in Europe. That was the Balkanian War. It's the dissolution of ex-Yugoslavia. It's the former Yugoslavia. It's an experience very strong. But also we have to consider that the director of one of the performance comes from Slovenia. And also is another aspect that theater can overcome the conflict. And also yesterday we have celebrated a very sad anniversary, the tragedy of Kateri Rades. I know that a friend of Albania, they know very well. We have celebrated this anniversary very, very tragic, but also to remember that we have historical responsibilities, but like men and women of performing arts, we have the responsibility to overcome with the elaboration of the memory, with the human sense of the theater. And also this is connected with the message of the World Theater Day of 27th of March. Now, the Montenegro Centers of ITI, it's another brick that we have built with this project. And also this center can allow to us to create other projects, to develop something. And this is for me the most important result. Also, the other aspect that I want to emphasize is there is an ambiguity of the performing arts, because performing arts, the theater, sometimes celebrated the power, celebrated the status quo always. Also, Molière lived in the residency of the king in France, or Shakespeare was really strongly connected with the power, with the queen and so on, and also many other men and women in performing arts were connected with the official power. This is an aspect that we have always considered, because the theater create a very important kind of diplomacy all over the world. Is the representation of the diplomacy all over the world. The culture is also a visit card for all countries to enter in connection. This is the first aspect. But the other one is that always theater create a connection with the ethic dimension, and also create critique the situation of living, the situation of the daily life, and so on. And also for this suffer very many times of censorship, always until now. Today in many countries, the women and men of theater are suffering censorship. This ambiguity is very interesting and is very important. And the result of this project is also to overcome the border and to create a connection in which we can consider this area like an homogeneous area made by differences. And it's not easy to front this. Also, was very hard to start to have a connection, to find a common language, to find the real tool to overcome the not clear level of communications and so on. Also, everything is amplified in this moment of pandemic, that because everyone has to front the situation to survive in this moment. But we are sure that we can do many things, mainly in this moment. And for example, another aspect very important of the project is to connect the research, the scientific approach to the performing arts. Generally, these levels are separated. We have a performance and we have the scholars, the writers, the critics that studied the performance to understand how is reflected the society in the performance. We have tried to create a combination to share experience, to share point of view. And also we need to do a very deep process of knowledge in this. For example, it's very important, the topic that has focused also Angelo Villani about migration. Migration is not only a topic, it's also a problem. Also in the political, in the cultural policies in Italy, the migration is not an opportunity, it's a problem. For me, the migration is a condition that we have in our daily life. From 25 years, 30 years, migration is not a problem, it's a condition. If we are able to work on this, we can transform this like an opportunity for everyone. I think the example of the United States is the big country, the most important all over the world, but is a country made by migrants. And was a very difficult, a very strong challenge, a very hard challenge sometimes, but was in any case an opportunity to transform the country in the most important nation all over the world. We have hosted like ITI Worldwide, a meeting with the ITI of USA last week. And we have learned a lot of experiences, very extraordinary. The big part with community of different communities of migrants. I have said before, I have mentioned the Cateri Rades was a ship of migrants that was hit by a navy of Italian navy, and many people died. Many people, we weren't able to recover the body too. is the condition of migration. Also, until now, in our coast in South Italy, arrives a lot of migrants, and also it's not only a problem of to manage a situation of crime. No, it's an opportunity to reconsider a new era of our ages. Also, with Natasha, we have spoken often, very often, because the residents, some Roma people comes from Montenegro, are Korakane. And also when in the beginning of the 90s arrived a lot of migrants in our coasts, the Roma people can speak with the people that arrives from that side because are quite Albanian speakers, the Korakane. This is an idea very concrete of exchange because the coasts are very near, but also we have to be very honest. We don't know each other until now. It's the first step that we have done to start to know each other and to work together. And I think that we have done our work. Was not easy for many, many different reasons. Also, epochal reason of COVID is one of these, but also I'm sure that we have to continue. We want to continue, and we will continue to work together. I don't know if this is enough, like a result for the managing authority, but for me, for personal vision of like Vice President of ITI for Europe, this is a very good result, and I'm sure that we will continue to work together. Now I give the floor to Peter Guralumi from Cendra event of Albania, and then I hope that we have time also to exchange some other considerations together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toledi. I represent Cendra event, but somehow we are here two Albanian partners. So sometimes we can also combine our discussions or our speeches because the whole project for the Albanian part was a combined one. We had roles that were combined. Something was done from the university and something else had to be done by Cendra event or vice versa. So, I mean, say, during our implementation of the project, we had the possibility to combine our roles and toward the results and toward the outputs of the project. I don't want to take your time, your valuable time, for mentioning all the steps we passed through the project, but I would start from as a simply saying from the indicators of a project. So we had thematic indicators that we fulfilled. We fulfilled as Albanian partners, but we fulfilled also in terms of full partnership, for all partnership. We had indicators for realizing a project, a transnational project, and apart the difficulties, the objective difficulties, we made it, but in another level. So it was a platform, an ICT platform, where we were transnational. This Adnich channel, Adriatic-Ionian Festival channel, is an example that for us only the COVID-19 blocked us to make a transnationality of the project. But in a certain way, we collaborated, we cooperated, we were transnational, and we see all the analytics, all the statistics of the channel as a result of the full partnership, not separated. And I would say that from the indicators, thematic indicators, and going to the communication result indicators, we see that we have fulfilled a lot of our challenges. What was for us a challenge now we can consider it as realized, as fulfilled, even in the ICT platforms, so YouTube, social networks, websites, also in the newspapers, in the media, written or electronic digital media. So from this point of view, I would say that the project in these 2 years gave its fruits, its fruits as were thought at the beginning. But why? Why we were so successful? I would say that really the Adnich is a successful project. Was challenging, but at the end is a successful project. Why? Because we followed a methodology of work, as Mr. Villani was saying at the beginning in his presentation. We followed a methodology of working together. So it was a choral working, a polyvocal working from these partners, all us, into during the years, months and years toward the final outputs of the project. And the methodology taking care a lot, even in the results of research that was the main thing was done by the University of Lecce with University of Arts Tirana. Unfortunately, I saw today that the publication is already done of the book, is almost 200 pages. That I think it's a big result, and it was in the outputs. So this result between two partners gave us the possibility also to find the storytelling, to open our attention to the communities for what they are interested from one side, what they would like to see, but it is already in their lives. But they wanted to see it as art. And from this, following this community storytelling, the partners, for example, the Albanian partner, University of Arts, just created the path of the works to be let's say co-created, co-written during the project, following the same methodology that also Mr. Villani was saying at the beginning. And we had these two shows, theatrical shows that Alert will explain for you in a deeper way. And but as Chandra event, I would like to mention also another part which was in a preparation of all this process going toward the University of Arts. There were focus groups, there were workshops in theater, there were the artistic residencies to create the basis for the two productions of University of Arts. A part of University of Arts, Chandravent produced, offered its production, the movie, with the same thematic that we catched from this storytelling, from this Albanian storytelling with this social problem. And we may say that this was a let's say, successful production, the film, but I would like to hear it from others, not from our partnership, because among us we know that all the productions were a success in itself, so they were a success. But what we did during these years or these months gave us the possibility and to be productive, to overpass the challenges, and also to demonstrate a kind of problem-solving attitude. Because among partners, we solved many problems, even created by the pandemic, but we solved them, and we went toward the results of the project. I would like to share with you a short video, but maybe it's 4 or 5 minutes. It's a video, a slideshow created with pictures from this basic basic work before the productions of the theater that Alert will illustrate to us better. Now I will share the screen. In one moment, I didn't put the audio. This is direct the effects of on hear the voice? The audio? So
Okay.
I hope you took a little bit of time, but learning what was done previously, the productions as methodology of work that already the project required from us. I would say finally that Adriatic network of artistic production made the first developments and first enhancements of intangible cultural heritage with our products. But mainly now I'd like to give the floor to Professor Alercelo Alie, who is able to show us or to tell to us more on the professional part of theater and theatrical productions made by University of Arts. Thank you for your attention. Alert, your floor is yours. Open the mic. Okay.
Thank you very much, and I would like to say something more, except what has to be said about the projects and what's going on stage. But what I saw in this afternoon in the presentations of Mr. Villani and Mr. Toledi is that even though we started to prepare our speeches in different countries and different rooms and different conditions, we find close points, close bullet points with each other. First of all, I was very touched by the way that Mr. Villani opened his statement, his speech, but saying that he was berated by his wife about the long title he had chosen. And jokes aside, I wouldn't want to be in his shoes while he was being berated by his wife, because I don't want, and I don't believe Mr. Villani would want to be in my shoes when my wife berates me. But as you see, we start in a common ground, both of us, being berated by the loved ones for not trying to express and explain ourselves better to the whole world that is looking upon us and is trying to understand what we are trying to do, what we are trying to achieve in what we are preparing in the next step. But Mr. Villani, I assure you that your title, Adriatic Network of Artistic Productions for the Development and Enhancement of Intangible Cultural Heritage, is more than adapted. It's not long enough for me, because, you know, for making this triangle happen between Italy, Albania, and Montenegro, or between Montenegro, Italy, and Albania, or between Albania, Italy, and Montenegro, and vice versa, you need to have a very, very long rope to connect all those regions together. And we think that as University of Arts, which I'm representing, we think that this rope was found in the very project we were trying to achieve in all those months. And I think that I have to congratulate everybody, because we achieved something, and this achievement is a good transnational connection, a good cross-border connections. We have between Italy and Albania the Adriatic Sea. We have some mountains that separates us from Montenegro, but all that, even in the conditions we are speaking to today, show that we sharing common grounds, and we try to find those obstacles that divide us as ways or means to connect us. And the whole point of this festival was to share our intangible cultural heritage, because what we know from the ancient times, the biggest fear of the human being is the unknown. And being close to each other, but being unknown to each other, it leads to misconceptions and fears and problems in the long run. And as neighbors and as different countries and different languages and cultures, we don't want that, because we want to be close. But this festival and what we achieved during those performances, we showed that we are far, but we are close. In the same way as we are close, but we are far physically from each other. But what we did, even in the conditions of the COVID pandemic, we showed that we are close. We had to organize some residencies. We couldn't do that those for causes of the pandemic, but we showed that we, as human beings, as beings that find ourselves in the highest point of the echelon of food chain, we know how to adapt, and we know how to find ways, when the goodwill is present, to make things work for ourselves and for each other also. And that theme of being close and being a part of each other, and vice versa, being far apart from each other but being close, is the same thing that I found resonating in what Mr. Villani described about the blood feud in Albania, and specifically he tried to explain that with what's happening in remote parts of Albania. But as we know, Albania is a very small country. Really, those areas are remote areas. Those things doesn't happen in biggest cities in Albania, but only in those remote parts of Albania. But even the word remote, it's not quite exact, because maybe Siberia is remote from Moscow, but otherwise those parts are not very far remote from Tirana. But we see those discrepancies, even though those parts are physically not very far from Tirana, not that far that we can say is I don't know, Taranto by Milano. It's really closer than that. But even physically closer than those distances in Italy or in Russia, between Moscow and Siberia, differences in mentality sometimes tend to go far away from each other. Though this festival of intangible heritage has to make us proud to what we have and what we cherish as our culture and traditions, as Mr. Villani explained in his eloquent speech about what intangible is. And it's not easy to speak about what's bad in your traditions, but taking that step, maybe it's a step toward the solution of the problem. And making that statement about speaking these bad traditions that seemingly take an inception or a time-shifting proportion, because sometimes we tend to see each other as we have moved so much in time and space from the 50 years of the communist dictator regime, or what's happened before that, and we find each other in the 21st century, shifted back in time in a period of slavery, of people living behind crossed bars, as the video of Peter artistically showed, or people being locked down, even though we live in the 21st century. But what makes us different, makes us individuals. And at the same time, what makes us different from each other makes us unique. And in that way, I find that what makes us different makes us intangibles. So we have to cherish this common ground of sharing each other, or sharing our stories, sharing our problems, our even our misconceptions, to be clear with each other. As Mr. Toledi told before, we share the Katri Radas history from 97 with each other. And I want to quote, not quote, but paraphrase our great writer, Ismail Kadare, which wrote a very, very wonderful piece about Aeschylus, the great Greek tragedian. And it is called Aeschylus, this great loser, in the sense that most of his works are not transcended in our culture and our history, but only 8 of those remain to these days. And in the preface that he writes that the fact that knowing also the history between Albanian people and Greek people, as you already know, there still is a war law in power in Greece against Albania, but otherwise the relations are quite normal. But this history shows that some misconceptions about each other exist, and some friction in the past have existed. And Kadare writes specifically, taking the pen to write about Aeschylus means that I am free of judgments as Albanian versus the Greeks. And Mr. Toledi, I have to say that what happened in Katri Radas was a real tragedy, but you mentioned a little bit about what's happening today, about the migration and everything that also Mr. Villani had in those slides before. And I don't see that happen anymore. I don't see Sibylla or any other Coast Guard ship of Italian Navy run over any ship that comes to Italy. Maybe this is the catharsis that Italian Navy made. Maybe it was needed, that tragedy of Sibylla, to make this catharsis and to have a different approach about other human beings, and start to understand what's fundamental: human conditions, and to accept without judging the other human beings. So said that, we had to develop something else with each other, which was some artistic residencies, which was not done, but the workshops were done, and also the pieces which were represented in the YouTube channel, in the Facebook channel of Adnich, were shared between different countries. And I have to say that the overall objective to increase cross-border cooperation, even in the conditions of pandemic, was achieved because one of the overall objectives, audience development, I don't think it's really a matter of numbers for each views that we have in the shows represented, that comes strictly from the same country that that promoted the event. But I think that what we shared between each other helped to achieve those numbers. Also, we did promote the enhancement of intangible assets of the 3 countries, and we try to organize a new form of experimental and cultural products. As I can speak for the way we presented songs and verses, and also the Blood Handcuffs, which was really an experiment for the Albanian part, because was divided in 3 parts. The same play written 2 years before even before that, the scientific committee decided to put the blood feud and blood vengeance as the main topic to speak for Albanian partners in this in this festival, in this project. Even that shows that this plague of Albanian society has been lurking down under, and has been a problem which everybody felt. And we try to experiment that, but giving that same play to 3 different directors to direct a different part without knowing the outcome of each other. And I think that was interesting to see. But also it was interesting to see all of what the other partners has to achieve. We feel somehow that we turned back in the period of communist regime in Albania, where Albania was totally closed, and we could not have means of traveling and knowing different cultures and different ways of doing theater or presenting things, or a different community storytelling. And I found that this is a very good possibility of exchange, seeing in this period of confinement by the pandemic, seeing how the others managed to show their story, how to tell their stories. And I think that that was also a great part of learning, because we try to involve in our project, and I have to say that one thing that has worked very well, it's not only the cooperation and collaboration between us partners, between Italy and Montenegro and Albania, but also between Albanian partners, because I have to say the most excellent words for what Mr. Goralumi has made and what Chandravent has made to achieve those goals we had in the project. And again, I have to say that I congratulate everybody for making happen this festival, even in those conditions, even in the prolonged time frame. But I have to say this, every milestone reached by the human being is surpassed. The fastest car, the first was horses, and we surpassed horses by building cars. First were pyramids, and then another one bigger was built, and then another one bigger was built, and then skyscrapers in United States, and then we have Burj Khalifa, which is the biggest skyscraper in the world. We reached this milestone, this conclusion of Adnich project, and I have to say, for what I've seen in the YouTube channel, successfully. What lies in front of us? And as human beings do, we have to surpass this. We have to do better the next time. And we have to do better by being in close contact with each other as countries, as cultures, as a different way to do things, ways to do things, and maybe achieve bigger goals in the next round. We have to continue what we have done until now and non-stop here. And for closing, I know it's difficult, but I will suggest a group hug online. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alert. Now I give the floor to Roberta Quarta, ITI Italy.
Thank you. So my speech comes after your very interesting interventions. So I will just add a little reflection to what has been said so far about the project outcomes and outputs, which have been very, very interesting and important in terms of cross-border exchanges and artistic creations and research outputs. I personally was responsible for the artistic coordination of ITI Italy, and I would like to take as an example of the methodology of the project the realization of the performance Mater Medea, which was the main production of ITI Italy within the project. Indeed, I connect to the last words of Mr. Celo Agliai and to the words of the other colleagues, that the art, the culture can dispel misconceptions and stereotypes. This is indeed the starting point for us in the creation of Medea. Medea, we found out that is a cross-border myth spread all over the Mediterranean. And we try to misspell the most popular stereotype of Medea as interpreted in the tragedy of Euripides. So we went back to an archetypical Mediterranean myth, the myth of Medea, the myth of a stranger, of a woman that is a victim of an injustice. I will not go deep into the myth now, but I would like to say that the work was developed by, on the basis of the researches conducted with a strong work with the communities, collecting stories and giving a poetical shape to Medea through all this work of listening and exchange of experiences and of different cultural backgrounds. The performances, as it was in the original edition, melted languages and sounds. We worked a lot on the chorus because we wanted to give a voice to the communities through Medea. Giving voice to a Medea as a stranger and also as a foreigner, as a scapegoat. This was also a reflection about the situation of women. This was part of an important part also developed in the research. So Medea, around Medea, we turned reflection on gender issues, on social conflict, and on cultural heritage. All this was inside the performance that we made with an international cast of actresses and actors. The pandemic unfortunately stopped the mobility, but we raised all our energies with other partners, with the Royal Theatre and the other partners, to give also a new shape and to give a response to this terrible situation that has struck the world of the artists and cultural operators. So the festival indeed was a response to that. And as an Italian center, we made the huge effort also to not to show simply the recordings of that Mater Medea that we were about to tour in Albania and Montenegro. We made an effort to make a of Medea, but that respected the core of that international performance that we prepared, and the core of the transnational and the cross-border heritage that was the pulsating heart of Mater Medea. So this was very important for me to say, and of course we are very happy about the collaborations that we could have, and that exchange of experiences about which Angelo Villani was speaking before as a living cultural heritage indeed. We are more mixed and melted than we are aware of. And the project certainly enabled us, and not only us as partners, but a lot of artists operators, direct and indirect beneficiaries, to be more aware of this constant cultural exchange that exists between our countries in our past, but also in our present society, global, more than ever. To finish my intervention, I would like to show a short video that as ITI Italy we have prepared to give just a visual overview of the many activities that were carried out within the project Adnich, and of also the great enthusiasm that was put in them. So I ask please to show the video.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And also, I don't know if Natasha, do you want to close something, or there is other considerations to share together as you want?
Okay, thank you so much. While listening your presentations, it was very interesting to see how we actually covered this communication, actually this triangle between Albania, Italy, and Montenegro on in so many different ways and in so many different levels, from the practical to almost abstract point of view. So it was very inspiring. I would like to maybe, if someone wants to discuss on that, but I would like that we mention some lesson learned or some elements that we, as Professor Allert said, needs to overcome and surpass for the future period. What I would like to point out, after 3 years of this joint cooperation and this project and so many productions, so we created 5 productions and we plan to create 3, created so many workshops, artistic residencies and so on. We actually learned through all this process. We studied, we tried to catch up because we were the only partner from Montenegro, so we didn't have this sister institution in Montenegro to share the obligations and rights. But what we actually can say now, after 3 years, that I would like to point out as something what is not notified as something that we missed, first of all, is definitely technology. When we created the project and when we started to work, we didn't think in this direction, and nobody expected that this pandemic will actually come and make us to learn new moves and models. But now at this point, we can actually say that this technology is very important part, and the digitalization would be very additional asset for all of this. So that would be something that we should really think and take into consideration for the future period, especially in a form of digitalization, the outputs of the Adnich project. The other thing that I would like to mention is something what Royal Theatre did start to work, ET Italy as well. Still, I will talk on behalf of the Royal Theatre, and we did try to reach this goal actually, but we still didn't. We think that we should work on that as well. It's creation of international ensemble. In our productions that we created, we used international artists as well as you in Mater Medea. But for example, in this particular period, we couldn't gather them due to pandemic. So therefore, even though we stepped out from our regular pattern, we at the end up not being able to promote these new steps and models that we use. This is something what we should work harder on, creating international network of artists, creating a pool of artists as in a form of ensemble, not only connecting us in this triangle that we are planning to work on in future, but as well linking with other countries and providing this network for artists further in Europe. I think this is something what is very important. It is something that we tackled in this project and I'm very proud of, but it's really an element that we should maybe think further and work on. these are two points that I wanted to share with you in regards to our experience. If you have something to add, Roberta or Pieter, thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you very much also for the big work that was by Royal Theatre, even in the most difficult moments. My wish, just my wish to say goodbye and to say let's start again, new collaborations, and to increase the networking that was so much done through the project and all the artistic collaborations. I'm sure that this is certainly a platform from which to launch new or challenging projects. So thank you to everybody, and ready to start again.
Yeah, if I listened well, so you wanted something from me, and I will try just maybe to repeat a little bit what I said in the beginning, but it is also a lesson learned. So if the partners, like we are, we follow a methodology of developing a project, and we are ready to, with this approach of problem solving, we can approach new projects, new thematics, and starting from research, we can find other material, other content in order to enhance the intangible cultural heritage through the artistic productions. But what is more, I would say that we have to go to the communities with the artistic productions, with the new artistic productions we already did with Adnich, within Adnich development as a project. But even in a potential new project, even new creations, we must find the communities. We must go inside them and artistically educate, because the communities need this warmer way of speaking, this artistic way of, let's say, touching their everyday's life. And another element, as Natasha told, the digital shift now is everywhere, every day. So we have to be innovative in reaching more and more audiences through the technology of digital technologies. But above all, problem-solving approach, it will give us a chance to penetrate to the new audience and to develop new ideas and challenging project ideas. Thank you very much.
If you will allow me.
Yes.
No, everybody, not only you, Peter. So yes, the digitalization, it's the new trend, it's the new charm. But as Mr. Toledi can explain you better than me, actors are called thespians not by chance. They are called thespians because somebody called Thesp mounted his chariot and started to giving performances. And in that period, there was no digitalization or internet or even electric light. And that's what we learned in this project. Is things are different but are equal valuable. Theater is beautiful because you have the human interaction. You have no interruptions. Every night you go to see a play, it's different. The actors perform in different ways. So if you have something that the human spirit is pretty much alive and faulty and beautiful and courageous and heinous, you find it in theater. And yes, digitalization, and what we have done, we should digitalize it to the immortality. It's not the same thing. And I hope this corona pandemic will go and we will continue in the future to cooperate with each other live, making real shows and showing touchable and intangible. I would like to say, I would like to touch it, what's intangible in Croatia, in Montenegro, in Italy. So let's hope that we will find ways to keep it real, as the rappers say. Keep it real, keep the theater as it was, because that's the beauty of the theater. And the most touching works ever written or ever presented on stage are tragedies and dramas. And I have to say that I was delighted, because my favorite play in the world, by all authors, by all companies, is Medea. That you cannot find such high points and low points in the same person, and you cannot find more Thor spirit than hers. You cannot find that diversity that Toledi and Roberta Quarta explained so beautifully. Some strangers that come to your city, and you find it difficult to deal with that and to understand what he's doing, and maybe they try to burn you in a log of in a pile of logs, because they believe that you are a witch, which was real for Medea. So let's keep it real. Let's try in the continuity to yeah, we have to be adaptive, we have to be problem solving, but we have to be close to each other. Thank you.
Just a few words, because Alert has provoked something important for me. I want to say another thing. It was very important to remember that the idea for Adnich was also to create something site-specific. And also site-specific is another answer. Something very concrete, connected with the human experience. You know, we have worked a lot in the theater in conflict zones. For example, in Nicosia, we have performed Metamorphosis from Ovid in the buffer zone, in the place separated of the Turkish Cypriot and Greek Cypriot part, and also with the United Nations army that protected us, because it was risky, but was an experience extraordinary for all the people to see a destroyed building of the Civil War, in which all the women and men start to sing Greek song and Turkish song together. And it was impossible to recognize who comes from Greece, who comes from Turkey, who comes from the Turkish part, who comes from Greek part. This is a miracle that theater can always create. And also we can digitalize this experience, but also the experience is something very, very concrete always, and also is the secret of the theater. Is a living experience theater with the concrete women and men. And also I think that we have created the basis to relaunch this. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you all. I would just like to give a short explanation. As someone who is coming from the theater world and someone who is representing the theater in this particular moment, is not someone who is advocating the digitalization of the theater. So for the record, but I would like just to say that digitalization and technology as something what is follow us and goes next to us, it's very important to take into consideration. Otherwise, we'll not be surprised. Maybe like we we have been surprised this time. So thank you all. I would like to thank everybody for the participation and for the interesting presentations we heard today. This is the last event of the Adriatic-Ionian Festival, and it's a last official meeting of all of us as partners, because in 3 days, the project is officially over, but I hope that we will stay in touch and work in the future. So thank you very much.
Group hug.